Hi everybody, welcome to YMCA Camp Campbell Guard's Kitchen. My name is Pete.
And I'm Sean.
And today we're going to show you how to make apple crisp. Now before we begin, the very first thing that you'll need to find an adult.
You'll also need a mixing bowl, cutting board, assorted utensils, gloves,
Or wash your hands really well.
that too, cinnamon, flour, butter, apples, brown sugar, and regular sugar.
Oh, that's a lot of sugar.
All right. So first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna chop your apples up. I've gone ahead and pre-chopped my apples. Some of the best chopping I've ever done so far, I think. So yay me. Then you're gonna take your apples and you're gonna cover them. Before you put them in your pan though, you wanna make sure that you line the inside of the pan with either the butter or some spray grease, whatever you might have, that way it doesn't stick to everything. Then you're gonna take your tin foil, cover it. It doesn't have to be super tight, just tight enough it doesn't leak out if it were to boil over. Now the pan, the size, you can use pretty much whatever size you want, just as long as it works in your oven. All right, so once you're ready with that, you'll take it to the oven. All right, place it in the oven for 10 minutes at 350 degrees. And what that'll do is that helps soften the apples up and get them ready for when we're gonna add our dry mixture here. All right, so now we're gonna start mixing our dry ingredients. We're gonna start with sugar. With this, we'll need 2 tablespoons of sugar. This large sugar bag is our sugar supply. And with this, you wanna make sure that you get it leveled off so you get just the right amount. So there's 1 tablespoon, 2 tablespoons. If you get a little bit too much sugar in there, that's fine. It's not gonna hurt you. So, all right, next we're gonna go with 1 3/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. So, with this, I'm gonna take the lid off so I can get the cinnamon out. With this, you don't want too much extra cinnamon because you don't want it to be too strong. All right, now I have half teaspoon measuring device here, so I'm gonna put in, there's a half. There is a whole, and then I need 3/4 of a teaspoon, and I have a 1/4 teaspoon there. So I'm just gonna the cinnamon does not want to come out right now. There we go. And all right, perfect. And now we're gonna put in 1 cup of brown sugar. So sometimes the brown sugar is a little bit harder to work with because it is a little moist, so you might need to, there we go. All right, so we get our brown sugar, well, a little bit of brown, too much, but again, that's fine. All right, drop it in there. Kind of like building a sandcastle. All right, next we're gonna add 3/4 cup of flour. So we have our flour right here. All right, any type of flour will work for you. If you have allergies, you can use whatever you want as well with this. So what we're gonna do now, so I'm actually gonna do this over the sink. That way if I pour too much flour, it goes in the sink and not in the, whoops, just like that. All right, so 3/4 a cup, so there's 1/4 cup. There we go, and 1 more. Perfect. All right. Now the next thing we're gonna add is the butter. But before we do that, I want to go ahead and start mixing this up a little bit, just to make it a little bit simpler. You can use what other mixing devices you want to use. I just like using my hands because it's a little bit easier for me than to use some of those other things sometimes. With this, make sure it's all mixed in as well as you can get it. Try to get some of those big clumps out of there so you can see that, especially that brown sugar kind of clumps up a little bit. Try to break those up as best you can. If you don't get them all out, that's fine. It's not a huge thing, but it does help make it work a little bit better. So, all right. So like I said, I just like using my hands to mix sometimes because it's a little bit easier and it's a little bit more fun. So, all right. Our next bit is we're going to use half a cup of butter. Now with this, you can get butter sticks. Nice thing about butter sticks is it tells you on the side. You can see right there, 1 tablespoon, 2 tablespoons, 3 tablespoons. And it gives you on the top there, 1/4 a cup is 4 of these, 1/3 a cup, a half a cup is 8 of these, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the whole stick of butter. With this, to make it a little bit easier, what you can do is when you begin this whole cooking process, you can get the butter out first. That way it can kind of get to room temperature. It makes it a little bit easier to actually put in your mixture. With this, you can chop it up into smaller pieces. It also makes it a little bit easier to mix in there. Whoops. So you can see right now it's pretty soft from sitting out for a while. The smaller the pieces you chop it into, the easier it's going to be to mix it in to your ingredients, but it doesn't have to be incredibly small amounts, just small enough that's easy to mix in. Again, if you let it sit out for 10-15 minutes before you actually start cutting and putting in there, it's going to make it easier to mix here in just a moment. So, all right. All right, so we've got the butter in there. Now we're just going to mix the butter in with the mixture. Again, you can use whatever mixing device you want. I'll just use my hands again. That way I can make sure it's all mixed in there. It does stick to your hand. You'll have to scrape it off a little bit.
Doing a great job mixing there, Sean. That's awesome.
You know what? I do what I can. All right. So I'm going to try to mix as much of the butter into the rest of it that you can. You might get a couple big clumps in there that you can just break those up and try to get it mixed in with the dry ingredients. Now what you're going to do here is when your 10 minutes are up, you can mix this in there, and we'll show you how to do that in just a second. But when you have it mixed,
is that the 10 minutes that the apples have been cooking?
10 minutes the apples have been cooking, yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, it's going to look something like that.
Oh, amazing. Alrighty, everybody, our apples have been cooking for about 10 minutes, so we're going to pull those out. I'm going to bring them on over here, set them on the table, and we'll go ahead and pull this foil off. Alright, now before I can go any further, I need to switch my gloves. Alright, so now that I've got these gloves on, we're going to take our mixture that we prepared earlier, and we're going to scoop it over the apples. It's best to start with maybe half of it or so and mix it in just a little bit. You don't have to do a whole lot, but just kind of move it through the cracks in there and get it all around each apple, just like so. And then with the remainder, we're just going to take it and make something of a crust across the top. So as it bakes, it'll melt down into the apples and just make it ever so delightful. All right, so I need to move this back into the oven to bake a little bit more, but I'm going to need to switch my gloves. Okay, so we've got our foil here. We're going to replace the foil over the apples. There we go. We're going to take this back to the oven. We're going to keep cooking at about 350 for another 30 minutes. Well, that's been the fastest half hour of my life. Let's pull this out and take a look at what we've got here. Oh, that just looks great. Fantastic. That's fantastic. Thanks so much for stopping by. Be watching our Facebook feed for more adventures with Pete and Sean.